Hi, I'm Julie Thompson, and I'm the guest host for Pembroke Today. And we have with us today Ed Thorne, who is the Pembroke Town Administrator. Welcome, Ed.
Jules, thanks for being on the show.
Glad to be your guest host. And I hear today we are going to talk about 40B housing, which is affordable housing. Can you start with educating us as to actually what 40B housing is?
Yeah, I think this is a policy and a law that's unique to Massachusetts. It allows developers to develop a affordable housing complex or a development that can be used to allow individuals to either rent or purchase homes or condominiums in a community that may be too expensive for them to live in. Mm-hmm. So it was something that was conceived several years ago, and it's something that some communities in the state embrace, mm-hmm. and others kind of fight it tooth and nail.
So you don't have to have 40B housing in your town in Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, the criteria is that if 10% of your housing stock in a community is affordable, mm-hmm. According to the state, then a developer can't come in and sort of circumvent the local zoning ordinances. So what I'm prepared to do is to explain to the public, exactly what the procedures are for a developer coming into a community such as Pembroke, and what steps they would have to take in order to
get a 40B development approved.
Exactly.
And keeping in mind that we do follow this rule of 10%, 10% of our housing in Pembroke should be affordable housing. Is that the premise that we're working under?
Yeah, for years and years, the percentage was 2 to 3%. And then one of the largest units, complexes that we have with Pembroke Woods Apartments,
yep.
Constructed in 2005, that put us over the 10% until the next census occurred. And then there's a new baseline unit. Right now, the number that we use is 6,477. So we would need 647 affordable units in our community in order to be at 10%.
Okay.
And right now we have about 625.
So we're short.
We're short.
A little under 25 units.
That's correct.
Of affordable housing. And because of that, a developer can come in and say, I want to build an affordable housing complex.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the things that, let's start through the steps, and then we can see where we are with the current project that is being proposed on Water Street.
There is a current 40B project being proposed on Water Street.
Actually, we have a 40B that's being constructed on Birch Street, what is known as Copperwood, and that's being constructed as we speak. And then there's a proposed 40B project up on Water Street Extension, which is north of 139. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that a developer will come in and they'll have a proposal for a particular piece of property, and they'll have a proposed number of units, where the units are going to be located on the property, what have you. And so part of the process is that they approach the town. Mm-hmm. We normally set up a public hearing with the selectmen, and the developer will come in with his proposal. In this particular case, the newest one, a lot of the neighbors, caught wind of it right away, mm-hmm. and attended the first hearing. So the developer comes in, presents his plan, and then the town has a 30-day window in which to submit a letter of support or non-support. During that 30 days, the developer then also has to have a site visit conducted by the subsidizing state agency. In this case, it would be Mass Housing. Mm-hmm. So then they conduct a site visit so that people can go onto the site to see how and where this development's going to occur.
People from the state would go onto the...
From the state and town officials and interested abutters.
Can I back you up for 1 second? So how does a developer know that this particular land is for sale and available for 40B housing? Is it zoned as such, or I just want to, just so I understand, how would I even know?
One of the things that that people will find out is that 40Bs can be located in any zone that a town has.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be a specific, okay.
No.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the things about 40B that troubles some individuals statewide is that it circumvents any local zoning. So some of the 40B projects that we have in town, for instance, Pembroke Woods was located in an industrial commercial zone.
Right.
Copperwood, which is on Birch Street,
Yeah.
is built in a residential A zone, which is a zone that's for single-family homes only on 40,000 square foot lots. So that's one of the things that a lot of people get a little upset about is that even though a developer has to adhere for state regulations such as the Wetlands Protection Act, Title V, and building codes, they can circumvent local zoning bylaws.
Okay, so let's go back to where you were. So this developer came up with this parcel of land, and he went to the town. Go ahead.
Right, and so he makes the proposal. Now the town, we have until actually February the 28th to submit our letter of support or non-support.
Okay.
And at this case, and at this time, it appears that the town is going to be submitting a letter of non-support, citing a number of issues that they have with the site and with the project itself. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
So the developer, so the town submits his letter of non-support.
Okay.
The state mass housing makes a determination as to whether or not that site is suitable for a 40B project.
Okay.
And so if the state decides that it is, and they will issue a determination of site eligibility.
Okay, it's eligible, okay.
Right. Then the developer, next step is to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a series of public hearings. The ZBA now is going to be the judge and jury for the town on this particular project. So the developer goes before the ZBA with his project, and then the ZBA conducts a series of public hearings, and they have to have the first public hearing 30 days after the developer submits his application to them. And then the ZBA will have a series of public hearings. In some cases, it could be 6 to 10 public hearings.
They can have as many as they want? The
As
ZBA can
many
have
as they need to
want?
have.
Okay.
As many as they need to have.
Okay.
And, they'll be inviting, obviously, they're all public hearings,
Yep.
and they'll invite comments from the town and from the public.
Yep.
So after the last of the public hearings, the ZBA has 40 days in which to render a decision.
Okay. So this could drag out for a long time.
Oh, and
Okay.
some of the ones that we've had in town, Pembroke Woods, Pembroke Woods 2.
A long time.
And the Copperwood have had a series of 6 to 10 public hearings. So the ZBA then has 3 options. They can approve the application as submitted. They can make recommendations and put conditions on the project. In most cases, they'll reduce the size of the project.
Okay.
Depending on where the site's located in
So
town.
you can't have 68 units, but you can have 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be looking at all the factors.
Okay.
And we can get at that when we get into this particular development.
Okay.
Or they can just turn the whole thing down flat
Say no.
out.
Yep.
And if they turn it down flat out, or if the developer doesn't like some of the conditions or the reduced number of units that are on the site, then the developer can appeal the ZBA's decision to the Housing Appeals Committee.
Which is the state.
Which is a state
Okay.
committee.
And they're the final say?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the Housing Appeals Committee can turn it down.
Yep.
They can approve it.
Yep.
They can approve it with some conditions. In some cases, the developer, if he gets turned down by the ZBA and appeals it to the Housing Appeals Committee, he may not even pursue it any further. Or the decision, if he continues to go all the way to the Housing Appeals Committee, then the Housing Appeals Committee can say yay or nay,
okay.
to the project.
All right, so this particular project that we have here in Pembroke, the developer brought the proposal to the town.
Correct.
We had hearings, this was last month.
That's correct.
Yes, okay. Very boisterous hearings. People clearly did not want, the neighbors did not want this to go forward.
Right. This is not the first time that somebody has come before the selectmen or before the town on this particular site.
Oh, this has happened before?
Back in '05, a different developer came before the Board of Selectmen with a 40B project on this particular site. It's a 50-acre site that abuts Water Street Extension and also the North River. But because the town was over 10%, the selectmen could just turn it down flat out.
Yep.
And that was the
end
end
of conversation.
End of conversation.
But because we're not now at 10%.
Fast forward, 12 years, that all of a sudden now, because the new census numbers come out, and the fact that our affordable housing unit number stayed about the same as it was in 2011, then we fell under 10%.
Okay.
9.69 to be exact.
So this
now,
opens the door for someone to be able to.
It opens the door, and it opened the door for the developer on Copperwood on Birch Street, and it opens the door for this gentleman up on Water Street Extension. So he's now in front of the Board of Selectmen with this project, and we had the first public hearing, and it was well attended, obviously.
Yes, it was.
30 to 40 individuals were there, and the board has had 2 more meetings since then.
Just the board discussing
just
what has happened and
some of the things,
the
some
public
of the
reactions.
Pros and cons to the project.
And
there are obviously a lot more cons than there are pros on this particular thing. So now the board is putting together this package, which is a letter of non-support, and that will be going to Mass Housing probably next Monday, the 27th.
Okay.
It'll be FedExed up to Mass Housing.
Now, Mass Housing receives this information, and it says you, as the Board of Selectmen, have said no, we don't approve of this. What is their step now?
Well, the things that would be included in the letter of non-support are the reasons why the town does not support this project.
Yep.
Foremost, it's in a residential A area. It is
which is supposed to be single
family
on
residential homes on 40,000
square feet. Okay.
Absolutely. Right now, the 68 units that are being proposed will be 2 and 3 bedroom townhouses that will be owner occupied. 25% of them, or 17, will probably be in the $100,000 range. Probably, I think the developer said probably around $150,000 for those 17 units.
And those are considered affordable?
Those are considered affordable.
Okay.
And then the remaining units will be in the $300,000 or $400,000 range. Because the site borders the North River, there's some concerns about the wetlands and the vegetation that accompany the wetlands. So we're looking at probably half of the 49 acres is not going to be built on at all. And so that means the 68 units that are being proposed will be placed on at least maybe 30 acres. And not all of that's going to be able to be used because there's going to have to be a wastewater treatment plant.
Right, I saw that on the plans, right.
And
for just this development.
Just this development,
and
absolutely.
it's because it's so close to the wetlands.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, and so there's other factors that are going to be taken into consideration. Right off the get-go, we're looking at the information that was submitted by the developer, in which some of the information is outdated or inaccurate. There has to be some updated plans, wetlands delineation, where endangered species habitat lies on the property.
Can I ask you something? If any of the information that was presented is not correct, doesn't that allow you as the town to say you have to go back and start all over again?
Well,
and present
we
us
would
stuff
hope
that works?
Yeah, we would hope that, by presenting this information, our first bullet was that the information was inaccurate and out of date, that Mass Housing we would hope, would go to the developer and say, in order for your application to be
Go
processed,
forward, yeah.
we think you should,
Update it.
update
Yeah,
the information, bring in, new set of engineers,
Yeah.
Scientists that would delineate
Yeah.
the wetlands on us so that we have an accurate, map of the area.
Right.
Now, our assessors have the GIS system that we can delineate some of those things, and some of the lines didn't match up with
Right.
what the developer
Right.
had on his.
So
on
doesn't
his
Mass Housing
schematic.
have like a list of things that make a project automatically be rejected? For example, something like that?
We're suggesting that they should be
Automatically
automatically
rejected.
rejected. We're hoping that Mass Housing looks at that.
Okay.
So we're looking at information that's inaccurate and outdated. We're looking at, a situation where it borders on wetlands. The fact that, our letter to Mass Housing is going to suggest that the town has taken great strides in increasing its herring population.
Yeah, right.
And we feel that this development would have an adverse effect on the herring, because the herring do come up the North River,
Yep.
Into Pembroke, and to spawn in Oldham Pond. And the fact that, the herring population has exploded the last couple of years, we don't want, and the fact that the Division of Marine Fisheries has acknowledged that we think that, that in itself, should be a reason.
That should be a deal breaker, right
But
there.
it's going to be one, like I said, it's going to be one of several bullets that, that we're pointing out to Mass Housing. The fact that there may be some endangered species
Yep.
on the property itself that, might have to be taken into consideration. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. One of the big things that we and the residents in the area have acknowledged is that it is located close to an intersection of Water Street and 139.
Right.
The traffic accident counts that we have received from the police department indicate that there have been like 43 accidents in a 3-year period.
Right.
I mean, it's a really
It's a bad,
tough
right.
intersection.
If you live in Pembroke,
as it
you know
is.
it's not a good place,
Yeah,
right?
either coming
Right.
out of Water Street
Right.
extension or making lefts onto
Forget it.
Water Street to get
Take your life in
make
your
a
own
shortcut
hands, yeah.
to get to Route 53.
Yeah.
It's not a nice straight
No.
intersection.
Right, right.
And it's got angles to it that are very dangerous.
Right.
And we just feel that a development of 68 units, not knowing how many individuals would live in there.
Sure, how many cars, how many
coming
people,
in and
right,
out
right.
of the property.
Yeah.
Would be a very dangerous situation. So, and then one of the other points that we're making is that the road itself, Water Street Extension, is like only 19 feet wide.
Wide, I know, it's very
and it's
narrow.
very narrow street.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow old country road.
Yeah.
And that something would have to be done for the development in order for people to come in and out of it onto Water Street in a safe manner.
Sure.
And the fact that there would have to be, water line extensions into the property. So, from an infrastructure standpoint,
everything, right.
it just seems to be a very poor location for the property itself.
Right. So all these things are in your package that you're sending up.
That's correct.
Okay. So if by some weird chance they look at all these things, including, now, are you including all the people that signed the petition?
Well, the petition's included into the packet that we're sending.
Because if you talk about that petition for 1 second,
Well, the petition is 56 pages long.
lots of people
I don't
have
even
signed
know
it.
how many people are on that. But it's signed by individuals in Pembroke,
Right.
in Massachusetts, the eastern seaboard of the United States, the Midwest,
Right.
The West Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, we got folks from all over.
Yeah, well,
the
and
United States.
it's the wetlands, I think, is one of the
the
big points in that.
And we have some great letters of support for the town from our legislators,
right.
including one signed by every legislator whose community they represent on the North River.
Right.
So we're talking legislatures that represent Marshville and Scituate and Hanover,
Norwell, sure.
Norwell.
Yeah, because it's all connected. I mean,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
that habitat and that environment is, everyone knows it's connected.
Correct.
Okay, so let's say, just by all of this stuff, Mass Housing says, you know what, that's a go. What happens then?
Well, then it goes before the ZBA.
Okay,
And then the ZBA will look at the project, and they will look at, the size of the project, where the units are located, where's the septic system's going to be,
Right.
or if it's a wastewater treatment plant, a package plant, where it's going to be located. They may ask the developer for a traffic study.
Yep.
They may ask for, in the ZBA in the past, where any development has asked for, maybe a new design of an intersection, what have you now. Whether putting a traffic signal there at that intersection, that would be something up to Mass DOT. So there's a lot of considerations that the ZBA will take into consideration. And they can take into consideration some of the projects that we've had in Pembroke in the past. Some of them have been strictly rentals.
Right.
If you look at the 5 largest 40B projects in Pembroke, number 1 is Pembroke Woods,
Right.
the apartment complex.
Yep.
That 240 units there, up in the industrial commercial zone. The next largest number of 40B affordable housing units that count is the Pembroke Housing Authority. They control on 3 different sites 163 units. They all count. Scusa Village, which is an apartment complex on 139, that's 38 units.
and that counts?
And then on a smaller scale, Jocelyn Farms, for instance, on Matakeesia Street,
yeah, that's
has
smaller.
13
Yep,
units in there that count. And we have other units throughout the community that have a set number of affordable units
Right.
in it. And then, of course, a lot of state group homes
Yep.
that are leased out to individuals or families. We have about maybe 69, 70 of those,
Right.
townwide.
So the ZBA basically can stall this by requesting a traffic study, by requesting different studies, by requesting public hearings. They can stall this for a very long time, can they
Well,
not?
I don't know, stall is a good word. I mean, I think they can make the developer jump through
Yeah.
as many hoops as they deem necessary.
Yep.
So I think that they'll look at, all of the factors. Now, are they going to come up with a reduced plan? They could. They could just take all the factors into consideration and say, we don't want it there, period.
Right.
And then have the developer make a decision as to whether or not they want to appeal it.
Right. Because this could drag out for quite a while.
Well, I think right now with the sentiment that the Board of Selectmen has, all town departments,
Right.
and of course the neighborhood.
The neighbors, yeah.
Because we haven't seen the full impact of the assisted living complex that was built on 139 that replaced the horse farm.
And that's not even done yet.
It's not even
So we don't
done
even
yet.
know what that traffic's going to do.
So we don't know
Right.
exactly what the
Right.
impact is going to be for there. And I think that's some of the concerns that the neighbors have because,
Sure.
hey, that project's not even done yet and we don't even know what impact it's going to have.
Exactly. So it goes back to the ZBA. They ask for studies, and let's say they say no. We agree with everything else that the town has come up with. We don't want to have it. Is the project dead, or at that point is there one last place for this
The
developer to
developer
go?
will have a chance to appeal it to the Housing Appeals Committee. And a couple of things can happen at that level. He could decide, I'm not going to go through with all this.
I'm tired of this.
He could say that that I think I want to do I want to appeal it, but I could do it at a reduced project cost, reduce the number of units there, what have you.
Or find a new space.
That could all be done,
Right.
before they get there. And if it goes to the Housing Appeals Committee for a yay or nay,
Yeah.
then, the town and the developer kind of roll the dice on that,
Right.
and they
Right.
will make their pitch
Right.
as to whether or not he wants to continue with the project and the town wants to continue to fight it.
Wow. So this is a big, huge to be continued. So right now, the only thing that we can do is you as the selectmen are putting together the package and you're sending it in, and then you wait, and you wait to see what they say. They might say, we agree with you, correct?
They could.
They could say, you know what, we looked at all your information and you're right, we agree with you. This is not the location for this 40B project. End of it.
Right, and all the factors that we would claim to be a major influence on why we don't want the project there, whether it's infrastructure
Right.
or public safety or
Right.
the environment. We would hope that mass housing, takes a
We'll take a solid good look at that, right. And in our last minute, if it does die at that point, can this developer then suggest another location? Or is it in your experience that this developer would probably go away?
He could go back and say, I'll come back with a residential development and build, several single-family homes on the property.
Because he owns the property.
He owns the property, and it's zoned residential.
Okay. So that would be then, you live to fight another day if you want to do
Right.
that.
I mean, if he could choose to do that.
Right. Okay. And that would go along with what that is zoned for.
Yeah, and then that way it would be out of the hands of the ZBA, or then in the hands of the planning board.
Okay.
Because the planning board, deals with subdivisions.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been great because it's a very complicated subject, and if you're not involved with it, residents like me, we have no idea.
Right.
So thank you very much for explaining this whole thing.
All right.
And we'll be back with another edition of Pembroke today, soon. Thank you.